Hi there, I'm Amanda Castor with Material Girl Quilts. Today I'm going to show you how to make this fun paparazzi quilt. Now the fabric I used for this quilt is bright and cheery and basically every color you can think of, and it's from the fabric collection called Paparazzi from Riley Blake Designs. Now there are two awesome things about this quilt pattern. One, all you're going to need for the quilt top is pre-cut 10-inch squares. So depending on which size quilt you want to make, you can either use one layer cake or two. And so there's no background fabric. And the other great thing is that you're only doing one block, a half square triangle. So as a reminder, if you are a member of Material Girl Society, you will have access to download the PDF for this quilt pattern, as well as every new pattern that's released each month. If you aren't a member and you'd like to learn more, please head to my website, materialgirlquilts.com, and click on membership in the top navigation bar. So let's get started. Okay, now as I stated, this quilt will come together fairly quickly because all we're doing is creating one simple block with our 10-inch squares, and that is half square triangles. So for your half square triangles, what you need to do is you need to select two different fabrics that are of different values. A light and a dark, or at least make sure that there is a difference between the values. Now this one probably is more of a darker medium and this is a lighter medium. But there is still a difference between the two values. So I'm going to place them together, and you just want to make sure that there's a difference in the values. It doesn't have to be the same color, like mine are the similar colorways, but there definitely needs to be a difference in the values between light and dark between your two fabrics for all of your blocks. So once you have sorted your 10-inch squares out and selected your lights and darks, you're going to place, for each pair, you're going to place them right sides together. And then, since these are larger squares, I need to mark. I can't just use the 1/4-inch tape on my machine because my table is not quite this big. So you'll draw a diagonal line across one diagonal. And then you're going to sew 1/4 inch on either side of that line. Now, once you've sewn on either side of the line, you're going to cut a part directly on this diagonal line that you drew. Now, I'm going to take this to my cutting mat and do that really quick. Okay, so now that I've cut them apart, that will give us two half square triangles, and I always press towards the darker fabric. Now, once these are sewn and pressed, you will then trim them if necessary to measure 9.5 inches square. And I actually happen to have a 9.5-inch ruler that I used for trimming mine. And I liked it because it has this a 45-degree diagonal line that once it's pressed, you can line it up right on the seam line here on your block to trim your blocks. So again, you will create however many half square triangles that are necessary for the quilt size that you have selected in the pattern and get all of those completed. Now, once you have all of your half square triangles pressed and trimmed, you're going to find that there are a lot of ways that you can lay out your half square triangles in this quilt pattern. And I'm going to show you a few examples here. You can lay them out so that the direction of all of your half square triangles are facing the same way. So in other words, in this example, the darker fabric is in the top right of your half square triangles and the lighter fabric is in the bottom left. Or you can rotate them so that your darks and lights create pinwheels within the quilt. You can also rotate them so that the darks and lights create diagonal stripes. You can create either a vertical or a horizontal chevron with your lights and darks in the blocks. Or you can place the darks of 4 different half square triangles together, or the lights of 4 different half square triangles together as shown, to create a secondary block design within the quilt. Now you'll just follow the pattern instructions for how many blocks you'll need and per row and how many rows depending on the finished quilt size you desire. Now, as you can see, there's so many layout options with this quilt pattern. But the most important thing to remember is that when you're pairing your fabrics to create your half square triangles, that you make sure you have two different values, a light and a dark. They don't necessarily have to be light and dark. They could also both be two mediums, but you just want to make sure that there is a difference and a contrast between those two so that it will show up when you lay out your half square triangles and rotate them within the quilt. So again, it doesn't have to be, this is not a solid, they read as solids because they're tiny little polka dots, but any print fabrics would look great as well, as long as you make sure you mix up the values for your half square triangles. If you do decide to make this quilt, please make sure you tag me on social media. I would love to see it, and use the hashtag Paparazzi quilt. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure you click the like button and subscribe so that you don't miss any tutorials going forward. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.